Welcome to Salento with Love. I'm Davide Mengoli and I'm going to walk through Salento with you today, and I have chosen a very special town right in the heart of the peninsula, and with over 96 towns to choose from and so many little villages. How do you choose? Well, you are guided by energy, and I would like to go through the city walls to start our walk. And one thing when we talk about energy is very important to think about the past of a city. Inscribed, that you can't even see it, it was written hundreds of years ago, there is a very special phrase: invidia inopia fa. It's written right at the top. Don't be jealous about what happens in the city walls or on the other side of the city walls. Fantastic. They were protected inside, but they really needed the support from everybody that was outside the city. Now I would like your support while we go through and we explore the town of Corigliano d'Otranto in Salento. Let's go. But before I start my walk, I think I need a coffee. And to have a coffee, I have chosen this. It's written in Greek. Oh no, it's written in Italian over there as well. Bar Castello. Why is it written in Greek? I'll tell you later. But I think we should go in and have one of the best coffees that you can have in Salento. Look at this ceiling. See, these are called luminarie. They made Salento famous all over the world, this luminaria. They were used, they're still used every time there is a festival in town. They put this luminaria all the way around and they're just so spectacular. But also the star-shaped ceiling, and well, I think the ice cream and the cakes are what makes Salento another good reason to be here. But the reason why I'm here is because I would like to introduce you to the Caffè Salentino. Posso avere un caffè salentino? Certo. So you know anything about the Caffè Salentino? Well, it's so popular that Nespresso a couple of years ago decided to launch a limited edition of Caffè Salentino. What's so special about it? Let's have a look. What is this? Cos'è questo?
Latte di mandorla.
You see, in different places they do it differently, but this is the original way of making it.
Lo soffiamo?
Sì, lo soffiamo. She's asked me if I want it to blow, but look what they're doing.
Prego.
Grazie. We know that summer is officially here in Salento when you order a Caffè Salentino. Don't you dare order a Caffè Salentino in the winter. They will look at you a bit funny. Now let's sit outside and talk about Corigliano before we start our real walkthrough. Summer, it's definitely started now. Caffè in ghiaccio con latte di mandorla soffiato. Corigliano d'Otranto, what a beautiful place, right in the center of the peninsula of Salento. So well positioned, coastline. Probably for that reason the Brazilian monks decided to have a settlement here. So the history of this beautiful town goes back to Byzantine periods, probably even before that. And in the 9th century the Brazilian had a fantastic base here and a Greek school as well. But that's history. What about today? Vibrant, fantastic, dotted around with beautiful restaurants and bars, and really offering the best quality of life here in Salento. What we will probably describe as la dolce vita. In fact, I'm going to let you in a little secret. The people behind me, they've been living here for many years, and they're originally from London, but they didn't want to be in the video. But anyway, we'll shelter them from that. But it's amazing. What a fantastic place to enjoy life here in Salento. But I think it's time now to go and take a walk through the town together. Now, isn't it incredible? We're right in a little town and you have a great big castle. This is the Castle De Monte. It was built in the 14th century and mainly really as a military fortress protecting the surrounding area. But it's gone through so many changes, and Francesco Trane, the Duke, at the moment sitting proud right in the center there, actually bought this castle in the 16th century and gentrified it. The threat of the Turkish was then gone, so it was time really for the Dolce Vita back in the 16th century. So the whole facade was redone with this beautiful balcony, incredible pietralecese. The Baroque architecture kicked in, and you can see it in its full glory over there. Next to the figure of the Duke, there's two other sculptures, one representing justice and the other one representing charity. There's two great qualities that this Duke had. Now, what's also particular about this castle, so it was a transition period going from the square big towers that you can find scattered around Salento to the roundness and this soft touch, and what an incredible construction. Actually, they say that this is the best castle to visit in Salento. The door is open, is not yet open to the public, but I think they're setting up because it's got a beautiful terrace at the top. So let's go and sneak in. They're just letting us in, but it's not open to the public yet. State facendo qualcosa per un teatro, una manifestazione?
Adesso sono preparativi per aprire il castello al pubblico.
Fra poco si apre?
Credo hanno organizzato intorno al 5 di giugno, però ovviamente dipende anche dai lavori. Ora stavano un po' risistemando. Sì, ma comunque si è fatto teatro, si faranno.
Bellissimo. So it looks like on the 5th of June or thereabouts, the castle is going to be reopened to the public to visit. I've explored this castle many times. Through those doors, underground, incredible spaces. And the changes that this castle and every castle went through, from a fortress, a military fortress, to an oil press, to storage for tobacco factories, it's gone through all those changes. And today, actually giving us the poetry of architecture that can be found here in Salento through the Baroque architecture. And wandering around and finding little places to stop and have a drink and have a spritz, a sunset opposite a castle. Well, can you think of a better way to live the Dolce Vita? What am I pointing out? I'm pointing at signs that bring me back to my childhood, going back to the 1960s and 70s. This is a tabacchino where you can still buy your cigarettes, your smokes. And the setting, it's like time has literally stopped here in these little beautiful towns. We are in the square San Nicola, dominated by the beautiful clock tower. What an incredible history about the tower, because it was one of those things that was actually taken away from the Turkish on the last battle in Castro, when the Turks were finally kicked out in the 16th century, and they took a clock with it and they built the tower. And you know, like when you go to the concert and they're going to the drums, well, we've got to the drone, we've got Vic behind the camera. Yeah, fantastic. So amazing to have somebody helping us to have an aerial view of this beautiful town. And Palazzo Como, you probably remember this from a video that I did when I sneaked in. Well, I didn't get arrested with Davide. We actually sneaked in that palazzo. What an extraordinary building with 200 years worth of history, with this very powerful facade dominating the square. And what you see here now as a square, there was a church here that was demolished in 1926 to create a square, because every town deserves a square. And to the right, we're going to go and see one of the most historic pieces of architecture in Salento, the Arcoluqueti. Arcoluqueti is one of the sites that you need to make sure you see when you visit Corigliano. It wasn't originally here. In fact, actually, it got probably dismembered as a result of being taken away from somewhere else and fitted here to give access to this courtyard, which is not that grand today, but probably was back in the days. This was done in 1457, but the arch with this representation, it's much earlier than that. A woman and a man holding this 8-star circle A chicken? What are all these things meaning? Well, we don't know. Buongiorno.
Ciao, Salento, we love.
But one of the things that I always pick up when I come to Corigliano is this balcony, this oyster-shaped balcony. That it's just so poetic, and it's also the facade of this building. Can you tell how the sun, the wind, the water and the rain is having an effect on this? And yes, things are getting replaced and restored, and although at the moment they've got some stuff there, but what I noticed last time I was here, they've actually kept the column over there that was replacing this big pillar. That's great. That's actually holding back a piece of history. Isn't it amazing to find these bars right in the center of a little town, Corigliano? And I've got my coffee waiting for me, grazie. And it's a quarta coffee. Wherever you are in Salento, you've got to have a quarta coffee. We are right opposite the church, which you will see as we turn around the corner, but not before I show you probably some of the best examples of Baroque architecture that can be found here in Corigliano. This grand entrances, these portals, there were probably a portal representing a portal to the other side, and what an incredible expression. Now, Baroque architecture became really popular in the 16th century. The Turkish were gone, and it was a way of celebrating, and they did it using the stone. And as we step inside a little bit further, still we see elements of a very wealthy past. And look at the writing over that door over there. You wonder what this was like. But as we turn the camera around, we will probably say that this was part of the amazing cathedral that can be found here in Corigliano. Now, I think we should explore, but an element of history that's very important to know is that the cathedral, it was actually built over a crypt from the Basilian monks from the 9th century. I probably did say this before, but there was one of the main schools of Greek here in Corigliano. And unfortunately, when the Turks attacked Salento, a lot of that was lost. But years later, a beautiful church was erected, living elements exposed of the Byzantine period and the Basilian monks. Incredible details in this church, and also the tower. Well, the tower is probably gone through some changes because it was very much a watchtower built in the 14th century before it became a bell tower and part of the church. And as you can see from the beautiful inscription above the Saint Nicola, you can see the year 1573 when the portal was built. And so all these changes that went through in putting this beautiful church together over the crypt of the Basilian in a beautiful little town surrounded by the most extraordinary architecture. Buongiorno. Che bello questo portale, eh? Ma questo di che anno è? Non si sa, no?
No, io.
È più grande comunque, no? Questo di te, il portale. Ha voglia, no?
Quanti secoli?
Secoli, addirittura. Chiesa della Dolorata, was built in the 1930s, well, late 1920s, after the main one was demolished in the square, and this one was rebuilt here with that beautiful rose window. And you probably remember this church because it was part of another video, because this church is facing Palazzo Corellius right on the other side, which is also an extraordinary example of architecture. Probably the same architect, because it's this neo-Gothic type of example of architecture which is very different from everything else that we can find here in Salento. What can I say when you are in the little alley and you are confronted with pure history, inscription on the walls, and this little detail, and every time I'm here it just drives me absolutely crazy. The wings of an angel, what's left of a beautiful affresco. Now, it's true, Italy is the home of architecture, it's the home of history. More than 50% of the history around the world is in one country, and that's Italy. And for that reason, sometimes when you have a little bit too much, you tend to do silly things like cutting through an amazing portal for 500 years of history. Well, the downpipe is very important, but never mind, we are actually going back to restore beauty. You could be the one responsible for re-injecting some love in this amazing architecture. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed this quick walk through this beautiful town of Corigliano d'Otranto. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. I'll see you here in Salento, and stay safe wherever you are.